What's up, you guys? As you can tell, we're going to be doing a welding project today, so follow along and we're going to turn some, let me get you guys in here, some just random scrap metal we have lying around the yard. We're going to make a little BB gun shooting gallery. Follow along and we will get started. I'll draw out for you guys the general idea I have. So there's going to be 2 pieces of round stock going down for the legs, coming down to another 2. We'll have a washer on this main piece of metal going across to these 2 A-frames. Coming down off the washer is going to be this these little tines. We're going to cut these off. They're going to be attached to the washer, and then down at the bottom of these tines we're going to have little metal targets welded to that. So hopefully you guys can see that. That's the general idea. Before we start the welding work, we have these little tines coming off of this cattle panel, this scrap piece that we're not really using for anything. We're going to hook up the angle grinder and start removing these. So we will get out the 4.5-inch angle grinder and we'll start doing that. Take this grinding wheel, put that aside, get on our cutting disc, make sure we have our helmet set to grind mode. We have 4 washers, so we need 4 tines to cut off of this fencing. Now we got our 4 tines cut. We'll put these aside. We'll put those right there, along with the 4 washers. Now we're going to move on to cutting our drilled round stock on all 5 of these. We're going to be removing that hooked end with the angle grinder, and let's proceed to doing that. Okay, now that we have all the metal cut and prepped, we're going to move on to the welding portion. We have this about where we want it. Now let's turn on the welder, and then we're going to weld it together up here at the tip. And we will repeat that on a second one. Once we have both of those welded at the top, we'll then weld on our cross member, attaching the 2. Let's kick on the welder. We are using an 1/8-inch 6010 welding rod. So we're going to have the amps at 88. Take a couple of these over to the table so we're not having to come back over here. I'm going to hang one of these legs, or one of the legs hanging off the welding table. We're going to hook our ground up too. This one's ever so slightly bent. Let me bend this inside of it. Oh, there we go. Bent that inside of the vise real quick, straighten that out. Put that right there. Now let's weld that together. Don't forget, if you have an electronic welding helmet, you need to change this to welding mode. Alright, that's good to go. Pad ground. Sometimes you gotta rotate this. If the metal's a little rusty like this and not clean, you can clean off the end with the wire brush, but if you just twist it like that, you'll get better ground to metal contact. Flip it over. One down. Let's do that with the other one. I have the welded section on the outside, using it as a form for the section that still needs to be welded together. Bad ground again. The wind's starting to pick up out here. Hopefully that's not coming through to the camera too bad. We have both legs welded together. Now we're going to get some magnets and work on the cross member. Magnet on, step back, try to get everything as square as possible. I'm going to grab a tape measure and make sure the distance between these two pieces of metal on the back for the legs and the two in the front are the same distance. Then I will start welding it together, at least this one side. All right, let's take some measurements. So on this back side, we're at 15 and a half in the front, 15 and a half. That looks pretty dang good from both sides, yep. All right, let's hook up the ground without the whole thing falling. Let's weld this together. We have this side welded right here. We're not going to weld this side up yet because we have to slide on our washers with our little metal targets. So we can take that side down, remove this magnet, and we'll finish welding this side all the way around. Move this aside. We will start welding these washers to these little pieces of round stock. We'll do that for two more, then I'll turn you guys back on. We now have all four of those welded up, and we'll move on to the next part of this project. I'm hoping there's not too much of a glare. I'm trying to angle you guys and put you in a good spot to where the sun's not glaring off of that lens like it so often does when I'm recording. Let's put these on just like that. Set up our other side. Hook up the magnet. 15 and a half, 15 and a half. All right, let's get that welded up. Now I'm going to take this piece of 1/8 inch flat stock we have right here. I'll probably measure out 1.5 inch, about 1.5 inches down, cut it straight across, probably 2 inches. I'm going to measure down 2 inches from the end, and I'll cut it straight across with the cutoff wheel, and I will do 4 of those. Got to put my helmet back to grinding mode. Now let's weld it to those pieces of round stock. There we got the ground hooked up. Now 1 by one, we're just going to move down and weld these to each one of these tines. So this is what we got now. So when you hit the target with the BB gun, they rotate back. Now to keep these in place, we're going to position these about where we want, and then on each side of the washer we're going to put down a pretty fat tack weld here and here, 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 and so forth. And that will keep a little bit of a saddle for that washer to stay in and ride in between. And that's what we're going to do now. On the outside, we'll have about 2.5 inches in. And from the outside to the next one, headed inward, we'll have at 3.5. 3.5. We got our ground hooked up. Now let's do our tack welds. So we got a pretty fat tack weld on each side of those washers on top, and that will keep them in place for moving up and down that round stock. Now for the next part of the project, I have both of those hooks kind of like right here on top of each other, and to give a bit of a space before I weld them together, I have that thin 1/8 inch piece of metal that we use to cut out our little targets. So now I'm going to run a bead across on the bottom right here where this clean metal is. Then I'll remove the flat strap and I'll put a weld from here to here. The whole point of this is just to keep that gap in between the hooks, and then I'll show you what we're going to do with that. That's one of them. There's that gap I was telling you about. Now we just have to do that to the second one. So the plan with those is we're going to weld one on this side and weld the other on this side. So we will do that. Got a new welding rod on. Alright, do the first one right there. Alright, now let's get the other side on. See how that one's lined up. Twist it just a bit. Right there. Alright, finish welding this one all the way around. That's what we got now. Let's turn the welder off and we'll start with the finish work. We got some black spray paint. We're going to paint the whole entire target. And then we'll find some different spray paint and maybe do a different color on these little metal sheets down here. This is where we're at. Now you guys are probably wondering why the heck we went through the hassle of putting these scrap hooks up here. I figured since we're going to be cutting them off, we might as well use them for something that can also go towards this project. So I'll show you what we're going to be doing with those. So the reason why these two hook portions we kept at an 1/8 inch is so that it can accept a piece of cardboard and friction fit down in between the two, just like that. So now we can have our paper targets up top and then our metal targets down at the bottom. Now that this is finished being painted, let's go set it up and give it a try. Thanks again, you guys, for following along. I really hope you enjoyed this build. Leave a comment if you have any ideas for future videos. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit that like button. Well, that's it for this project. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks again.